we're talking today about working from the inside out, but I found something a little cute that I wanted to read because I always thought this was adorable. So these little children were lined up in the cafeteria of a Catholic elementary school. For lunch, at the head of the table was a large pile of apples. The nun made a note and posted on the apple tray, "Take only one, God is watching." Moving further along the line, at the other end of the table, was a large pile of chocolate chip cookies. A child had written a note, "Take all you want, God is watching the apples." I know, cute, right? Typical kids too, isn't it? Well, today, let's see, do we have a
next slide.
quote, I think, on the next one? Working from the inside out, is there a quote? Maybe not.
Next slide.
Next slide, right? Okay, so here's, oh, that's good, Roxy. Do y'all know what Ernest Holmes looks like? He was a cutie pie, and just I want to just talk about him a little bit. They called him the human question mark because he was always seeking and trying to learn new things. And if he was here today, you know, I said that he would be talking about quantum physics and he would be talking about all these wonderful things because he always said that, you know, science and spirituality come together in a beautiful way. And so he was constantly learning and growing. And toward the end of his life, he was married to a woman named Hazel. And he loved her dearly. And she was probably one of his most potent and powerful practitioners in the movement. Do y'all know that? And when she died, you know, he felt horrible because they were so close and they were so connected. And, but later on in his life, he was giving a talk, and I'm not sure if it was at a seminar, I think it was at a center. And as he was talking, he became awakened. And a light came and showed him the other side of the veil while he was talking. And they, I think, have this recorded where he said, "I can't talk anymore, I have to stop." Because he felt the divine so powerfully, so he had to just stop what he was doing. But it's beautiful because you'll see his writings evolve from the science of mind to living the science of mind to some of the other things that are more, I'm going to say user-friendly because they're easier to understand, you know, like this thing called me, this thing called you, and it's a way to embody spiritual teachings in a way where we can move forward in our life in a very powerful way. So I call this moving from the inside out because I realized that, you know, most of the work that we do, and if we're in this world, we're always having to work on ourselves, right? Anybody here totally evolved and you're happy all the time and nobody ever triggers you and nobody ever gets you upset? Anybody? Not me. So anyway, I realized, you know, especially this week, that I've evolved in a lot of ways and I'm still growing in a lot of other ways because there's lovely individuals that come into our life and they make us go, I know Artemis is going, yeah, and they make us go from the inside out and they make us work, they make us evolve, they make us transform because if we don't have those individuals in our life, then we're not going to evolve and we're not going to have that openness for spirit to come through us. I call it allowing that divine wisdom to download within us. Paul was talking about how he was meditating and that he had this beautiful, you know, download or this information channel through him and come through him to guide him how to deal with a relationship in his life. And that's what happens when we meditate, when we pray, when we do contemplation. It happens when, you know, I love driving. You know why I love driving? It's a form of contemplation. I'm able to be present. I don't put music on. I do nothing. I just allow, you know, the divine to come through me because these beautiful ideas will come to me as I'm driving to my daughters or driving to Arts or wherever I'm going because it's a way for me to just be in the silence. And for me, that's one of the ways for me to work from the inside out. And it helps me. The other thing that I love to do is to walk and connect to nature and just to watch the little animals, whether it's a squirrel or whether it's a kitty, or it doesn't matter. because it allows me to tap into the greatness of spirit. So, part of it too is that, we want to practice mindfulness. And what's mindfulness? And you look at, Thich Nhat Hanh, or do you ever hear anything bad about anybody beating up on Thich Nhat Hanh? Does anybody ever say bad stuff about Thich Nhat Hanh? No. Does anybody ever say bad stuff about the Dalai Lama? Does anybody ever say, well, some of the gurus they do, but most of the time they don't, okay? Because what happens when we practice mindfulness, what happens is that we create this atmosphere of loving kindness. We create this atmosphere that attracts to us what we desire. I know why Joanne teaches Kundalini Yoga, because it creates mindfulness. It creates a way for us to allow the divine to move through us and impart that wisdom. It allows us to have our soul guide us where the next steps are. And sometimes that's going to be with somebody that's a really hard person to be around. Because that person, I know Joanne's told me stories, and Sharon and everybody in here has told me stories about people. God bless them, right? Because they're the ones that help us evolve. So I like to say we're like a little piece of coal, and each difficult person in our life or relationship or situation helps us to become a diamond. And they do, don't they? Because they help us to become strong, they help us to realize the truth of who we are, and they also help us to love ourselves more deeply. Because we watch these little babies, and they're so sweet and cute, and they're so fun, and they're full of joy, and then all of a sudden something happens in their life and it changes them. And they become hardened, or whatever the case may be. I was watching Rocket Man about Elton John, and I had no idea. Because a lot of these people that have evolved or had success or whatever in their lives, they had a horrible beginning, whether it's, anybody, it doesn't matter. And then a regular person, it doesn't matter whether they're famous or not famous, we all have the same path, don't we? And what happened, and I love this because it's anybody's journey, where, they have something going on in their life, and whether or not you've had a family member that's been difficult to be with, whether it's your mom or your dad or a sister or brother, it doesn't really matter. And for him, he had to finally get to a place where he checked himself into a rehab place because he had several addictions. Because in the mind, too bad he couldn't have gone to science of mind sooner, but what happened, he finally had that awakening. They say when you're an alcoholic, you have this, all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh. I have a girlfriend of mine that she's now been sober, I think maybe she's been sober now 30 years. But she said it was so bad. She was living in Big Bear. And she realized, she was drinking and drinking and drinking. And she looked in the mirror one day, and she looked and said, oh my gosh, is that me? And that awoke her to seek help and to allow herself to evolve. And from that point, she went to USM. She did a lot of this work on herself in order to shift and to grow from and work herself from the inside out. And I just saw her recently, and this has been years, a couple weeks ago, and she's still this happy, joy-filled person. And she was also a practitioner over at Burbank Center for Spiritual Living. But what can we do to become more aware of ourselves? So we'll have somebody that'll say something to us and, oh, I can't believe they said that to me. Anybody ever have that happen besides me? And so what happens is then I have to go, wait a minute, what's that triggering in me? And I have to take that full responsibility. You know why this movement isn't popular all the time? Is because we have to do the work. We have to do what we have to do in order to shift and grow and move forward. And so I look and I say, okay, somebody said that to me, and then I get mad and I get upset, and then I go, whoa, what's that triggering, okay? Is that triggering something that my dad said? Is that triggering something from a past relationship? Is that triggering what an old boss said? And as I am uncomfortable in that moment, feeling the feelings, because a lot of what we do in our society, we don't feel our feelings. We don't allow that to come in, be present to it. And I think there's a book called Busting Loose from the Money Game, and he has a process, which is Science of Mind, 5 steps. But it's really to allow those feelings to come in, to be present to them, and be aware of what that trigger is. And that's really hard, because we bury it down so deep, don't we? I don't want to feel it. Do you want to feel that stuff? I don't want to feel it. And so as we do that, we become more aware, and we're able to be the master or mistress of our life. And we become more awake and aware to what we desire. So that's really a lot of it. We have to be awake and aware to the emotions and the pain in the past, to release them, to let it go. Because in Science of Mind, what we talk about as it's revealed, it is healed. And you know, I love the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, because it talks about, you know, moving into forgiveness and a lot of things that we talk about in our teaching of Science of Mind. But one of the things that Ernest Holmes says, and this is from Living the Science of Mind, and this is What Do We See in the Mirror? That's the name of the chapter. Here's one of the keys to successful living and right relationships among people. It is only when we are whole within ourselves that we can help others. It is only when we have faith that we can instill faith. It is only when we have hope and enthusiasm that others respond to us with equal hope and enthusiasm. And then he has another paragraph down. If we could come back to see that life is like a mirror, tending to reflect back to us the images of our own thinking, then we should realize by changing our thinking, we can change the reflections in the mirror. Do you love that? Ah! So as I've had things happen in my life, and I go, wow, you know, what am I projecting out? What can I shift within myself in order to have a new reflection in my mirror? Can I do more self-love? You know, I love, my friend Margaret was over, and I have a good friend of mine, and then I had another friend that came over yesterday. It was kind of cool because I had a couple of beautiful people that came into my life. One of them was talking about how, you know, when they get upset, they just shut down and give people the cold treatment. And I've been around one of my friends that has done that to me, and it's like, oh my gosh. That's when we ask for communication. That's when, and I remember one time I was with a friend and we were traveling, and she got upset about something, and she was so upset, and I said, listen, I said, let's talk about this, because if we don't talk about it, we're not going to be able to let it go, and this is going to be a horrible weekend. So we finally did, but what was underneath that was a trigger, as I've talked about before, of something that happened with her mom. And it was something that happened with her ex-husband. And so she shuts down instead of feeling it, instead of talking it through. So she said something happened, I can't remember, I was talking to her about something else, and she was saying how she was upset with her son-in-law for he did this, and oh, you know, the big, we're high drama, aren't we? Oh, I'm such a good drama queen, aren't y'all? Yeah. And it's so good. We're like, yeah, high drama. They did that to me. And then I said, is that really the truth? And I said, next time that happens, she held it, the cold treatment, for 2 weeks and did that with her family. And I said, oh, honey, I said, that's so sad that you were so in pain that you allowed that to happen to you, because what happens when we hold that negativity in our body? What happens?
It festers.
Yeah, right? And doesn't it? And then what do you attract more into your life? More negativity, more. So it's like the faster we can clear it. So what I said to her, and I said to my other friend yesterday, I said, call me. Oh, I didn't think about it. I said, because you know what? When we're caught in that trigger, that sequence, that old feeling that pulls us back to the past, then we don't know what to do. You know, maybe we then need to go see somebody. You know, maybe we need to go have some prayer. Maybe we have to go and have a healing. But it's something, because if that's happening, that's God going, I love you and let's get rid of this already. Okay? Because that's really the truth. Because here's Spirit always saying, I love you, my beloved. I will take care of you, you know. But as there was a line in Rocket Man where Bernie Taupin says to Elton John, this I can't do for you. You have to do this work. And he's like, what? Because at that point he was in rehab. And it was about anger management, alcoholism, drugs, everything. And I thought, wow. So with us, it's about how do we do that? How do we work it? We get support from other people, you know, and it's really about allowing others to help us too, because that's really the key. So the last thing is, a lot of us have fear, and it's stuff that's perpetrated in our society, and it's more of a, what do we call it, race consciousness. In Science of Mind we call it race consciousness. But there's a energy in our society that we feel all the time. So what we can do is to just feel love, light, peace, and joy within our lives, and then we can shift that and not allow that boom, 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 you know, the stuff. I don't watch the news. I always know what's going on. Somebody will tell me, or it's on the computer, or it's somewhere. You're going to hear if you really need to hear it. But the thing is, allow yourself to just be in a space of, what do I want? I want love, peace, and harmony. That's what I want. So letting go of the fear, letting go of the lack of self-worth. And then finally I said to my friend yesterday, and she says, you know, we should do, and we'll kind of support each other. I go, what? She goes, how about we do the mirror exercise from Louise Hay? And I said, yeah, because you know what that is, right? You take a mirror, you can carry it around in your purse or your pocket for the guys, and you just look in the mirror and go, I love you, I love you, I love you. I know, and it's like, first you'll laugh, then you'll probably cry, and then you'll heal, because that's what it's about. And it's hard to look at yourself, because it's your soul, looking at your soul in the mirror and do that work. It's a deep, deep, profound practice. And that's really, you know, creating mindfulness within ourselves about where do I still feel not great. So I wanted to close with a beautiful prayer out of, he calls it a meditation, I'll call it a prayer, so if you want to just kind of be with it, I'm going to read this to you. It's not that long. And we can perhaps take this with us this week as we go out into the world with all our beloved individuals that are in our lives, and maybe have a different viewpoint of them, because I always have to put myself in their shoes before I get really upset and wonder what's going on with them. Then I can be compassionate, then I can give them a sense of love. So here's a meditation from Ernest Holmes. As I look out into my world, I see that there is nothing to fear. And as I look back into my own mind, I know there is nothing in me that is afraid. My thought is filled with confidence, with hope, with trust, and with the acceptance of good. I expect the mirror of my experience to be filled with joy as I turn the magic lantern of my mind into the great mind of spirit of the universe in which all things exist. I know that I am one with all peace, all power, and all good. You guys want to say that with me, that one line? I am one with all peace. I'm one with all peace, all power, and all good. And and then I'm going to read this. You don't have to repeat after me. I affirm the presence of good in everything I do, the guidance of love everywhere I go. I affirm that strength, enthusiasm, and vitality forever flow through me from the all-sustaining life of the universe. I affirm my union with God, and I know there is nothing in the entire universe to be afraid of, nothing to avoid, nothing to run away from. I am at home in the universe, one with God, one with people, one with that perfect and abiding faith that knows no fear. And so it is. Yeah. So thank you, beloveds. Have a great week. And just know when you encounter anything out there that isn't wonderful, it's going to make you more loving and more present. Oh, isn't it fabulous? So thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Okay.